right, as you know, I tend not to use the gavel, so I will go ahead and call this school board meeting together to order. And our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Secretary will note the roll. Everybody is here this evening. Next issue is executive session. We had an executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss personnel. Before we get into public comment, which would normally be our next item, I just wanted to mention that we lost one of our own recently. Mr. Tom Roberts. You may know that the music wing is dedicated in his honor, and today was his viewing and funeral. So if you'd all join me in just a brief moment of silence in his memory. Thank you. And now we have an opportunity for public comment. Is there anybody who would like to and has submitted a request to speak to the board this evening? I'm going to have to get you to start recruiting people. If not, all right. Then we'll move on to the part that everybody's here for. Everybody's here for our recognition and awards. This is one of the few perks there really are in being on the board is occasions like this. So I'll turn it over to you there.
Great.
Dr. Shirk.
Thank you, Mr. Lingwin. Good evening and welcome everybody to our school board meeting. As Mr. Lingwin stated, these are events that we really enjoy spending time and taking the time to honor. Tonight, we honor our boys soccer team, the Pioneer Athletic Conference Frontier Division champs and PIAA District 1 qualifier. We also welcome our girls soccer team, the Pioneer Athletic Conference Frontier Division champions and PIAA District 1 qualifier. Our high school football team, 2018 Pioneer Athletic Conference Frontier Division champs, 2018 PIAA District 1 Quad A champs, and 2018 PIAA State Championship qualifier. And also Naomi Hillen, our cross-country a runner who placed first in the Pioneer Athletic Conference cross-country championship and qualified for the state championships this year. So we're going to start tonight with Naomi, and what I'd really like to do, I have a brief bio for the team. I asked the coach to come up here, if you would, on the side. And I'm going to ask the help of you two gentlemen. Help, if you would, tonight. We have this one for Naomi. Congratulations to the cross-country sophomore, Naomi Hillen. Naomi's season was one that was filled with dedication, hard work, and commitment. Through these skills, Naomi went undefeated in the dual meet season, placed first in the Pioneer Athletic Conference cross-country championship, with a time of 19 minutes, 34 seconds, second female in school history, placed 24th in the districts and qualified for the PIAA State Championship at Hershey. After her successful sophomore season, Naomi's goals will be set even higher, and we will look forward to her achievements in 2019. Naomi is coached by Larry Recton and assistant Megan Deleda. Congratulations. Yeah, please. Yeah, actually, we're just going to give them to the coaches.
Give them to the coaches.
Yeah, we can just, but I want just handshakes though, please. Yeah, great. Okay, our next group, our girls soccer program. I'm going to ask the coaches to come up, and then along with their team as I read the bio, and then we have your certificates here to be passed out after the event. The Pottsgrove girls soccer team achieved a number of firsts this season. Their 14-4 overall record was the most wins in program history. The girls went 10-0 in the Frontier Division for the first time. They had gone undefeated in divisional play. It's the first Frontier Division Championship, the first time Pottsgrove girls has qualified for the PAC Final Four tournament. The Falcons also qualified for the PIAA District 1 playoffs for the first time since 2002. With one graduating senior, the future looks very bright for these girls next fall. The team is coached by Steve Meller, Ms. Kylie Riley, and Mr. Hector Wangi. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. Our next team we'd like to recognize tonight is our boys soccer. The Pottsgrove boys soccer team. Please work your way up with your coaches. As we read the paragraph, the Pottsgrove boys soccer team was back to the familiar ways this season. The boys won the Frontier Division Championship, qualified for the PAC Final Four tournament after finishing 7-3-1 in divisional play. The team also qualified for PI District 1 playoffs with an overall record of 10-8-2. This is the 7th year in a row that our Falcons qualified for the PI District 1 playoffs. With 9 returning starters, the boys will look forward to continue to improve with their success in 2019. The team is coached by Jay Wachowski, assisted by Kevin Graham and Jeff Erb. Congratulations. Okay, our next group is our football squad. We'd like them to work the way forward, please, with their coaches and team. The Falcon football team is not new at having successful seasons. What is different is that this year the team was led by first-year head coach, Mr. Bill Hawthorne. The Falcons finished the season with a 12-2 record. That is the second highest win total in a season in program history. The Falcons repeated a Frontier Division championship with a 5-0 record and became the first PIAA District 1 Quad A champion the past 3 years, and that's the first in Pottsgrove history. And to top it off, the Falcons earned their first PIAA playoff win in school history, finished among the top 8 teams in the state of Pennsylvania in Quad A. As you make your way, congratulations to all coaches and members of this team.
We're gonna make it all last, so you'll have to stay.
You know, they gave me this stuff to sign at the end of last week. Oh, you're gonna get tired. You're telling me I get to recognize 100 of my kids as district champs. I'll do that all day.
Okay. Mr.
was
Lingman, are we ready to move on?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you want, we can go back across the way and sit in the district office. A little more comfortable, but no, let's go ahead, please.
Okay. What we'd like to do now is basically have the opportunity to share, with the board, with the whole board, some of our thoughts that we have regarding our new district logo. If you take a look across from you and behind you, this is the work really over the last 6 months that dealt with the co-curricular and athletic committee, as well as several board members as well. I know Mr. Lavick, Mrs. Custer, obviously, and then the athletic committee, you were all involved in these pieces. We do have a handout that's in your packet regarding the logos to share, but what we wanted to do is really show you the revisions that were made to the packet, and we really feel that the new logo really represents the district in a fashion that sort of updates what we're doing. 3 different logos can be used at different levels throughout the district for different activities and events. And I really just wanted to give the whole board an opportunity to talk to the committee, talk to each other, and if you had any specific questions, I know Mr. Dorenzo is here as well to help maybe answer some of those. So feel free. Discussion. We would just really tonight we wanted to share our work with you, and also look to move this process forward and our change to these new Pottsgrove Falcon logos.
I like the simplicity of the middle one, but at the same time, the 4 stars, I think, set it off nicely. And Al, I think that was your idea, to put the 4 stars on for the 4. Yeah, I like that. That's my pick. So, thumbs up, Gary.
So are we picking one?
Well, no.
No. They'll be used different ways.
So why not just one if it's a logo? Just curious. I'm not suggesting it's wrong.
The reason why, okay, first, I do need to say thank you very much to Mr. Dorenzo and everyone that was involved with going through the work to create the logos. There was a lot of iterations and a lot of discussion that went back and forth about these. I want to really, and I think they came down to a really nice set of complications in each one. What we did was we wanted to make it to where it was uniform as best as possible, with the idea of being able to break each piece out. So the falcon can come out by itself, the claw can come out by itself, the head can come out, the circle, everything can come out separately if needed be, like for a shirt or anything like that. The reason why we had 3 up there is the falcon, as you see, is all the same, with the circle being the same and such like that. The one to the left is just with the PG in it. The one with the right, the 4 stars, that pretty much is going to serve as our centers. So you got the K through 2, you got 3 through 5, you got the representation of the high school and the middle school. So that's what we came up with those, and it breaks up the circle a little bit. But again, this is all acceptable, and we'll have iterations of all the 3 to go through. Also, this is just the beginning for the board, as in there's going to be, with the logos, that's it. Right, but they're going to have, Mr. Dorenzo has a whole section, as in we're going to break everything. It's going to be all broken down to where the fonts and everything will be available so that we can make sure that everybody in every little organization and club is able to use the same fonts, the same everything that we're creating here. We want to make it a campus-wide with the clubs and all the organizations using the same instead of having all these different falcons that are all over right now. I'm hoping it's going to be phased in relatively quickly. I don't know how the phasing is going to work.
We obviously wanted the opportunity to share this with the whole board tonight, and gain your support. And then our goal is basically to start, the process, within the next weeks, to start to change over with stationery, cards, start to think about the process, how we really get some protocols in place to start the transition. It's not going to happen overnight. We're not going to come back and ask you, for X amount of dollars to let's blow this thing up and change it all by the spring, or change it all by next year. But we're going to work through the current things that we have in place, and then work our way toward the new logo. But we can start with some of the the uniform pieces, the T-shirts, some of those pieces right out of the gate, business cards, stationery, because a lot of our stationery is just electronic letterhead anyhow, so those pieces can happen right away as well. But we think this gives us a new edge, a new look, and I'm happy to be part of those pieces. I'm proud of the work that was invested by our school community and the board's interest that you took in it to make it really the trifecta between administration, the school, and the board. So that was much appreciated. I'm not putting Mr. Dorenzo on the spot, but is there anything you'd like to add about the process? Or
Can everybody hear me? I think the process was good because there was a lot of eyes, there was a lot of collaboration. If you noticed in the packet, I mean, our school started in 1956. That Pottsgrove came together from the old West Pottsgrove High School. And you can see by the number of Falcons, we've almost had that many Falcons since 1956 that we've used versions of. And we just felt it was important for us to have an identity, that we're all the same, we're all one. All of our buildings will be able to use this in any form or fashion. That was really the application of it, to have options to use it, but all still be the same, was very important to us, so that we weren't using, a variety of different Falcons, etc. Some not even Falcons, but that was really the impetus behind it. And I think, again, there was a lot of eyes on it. There was a lot of collaboration, and everybody picked out little things, which was good to the process. So Mrs. Custer picked out the snowball, which I didn't even see, but it was like, it became so prominent then. So, thank you.
And what we'll do also is, as we get through the process, we'll update you on the things that we're doing, so that you can basically really work along with us as far as the process goes, and the changes that we made, and really the vision going into next year and the following to make the transition smooth. So again, appreciate your support.
Okay, just a quick note. So tonight we have the personnel, and we have Section 7, which is the business, and 8 is the education. A lot of these are going to be simple voice votes. So what I would appreciate, as we get to each section, before we make the omnibus motion, if anybody has any objection to any one that's coming up, rather than have the confusion, just let us know as we say next section, Section 6 is this, and then if you have an objection, let us know so we can pull that one out, make it simple. I want to make this efficient. So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lindgren. We're going to start off with action items for personnel.
I would like to make a motion for 6 action items to be clumped together. Personnel, 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, which are supplements, 6.6, which is student-teacher placement.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any particular sections they would like broken out of the motion? That's okay. All right, well, we have enough to carry without, so you can vote against the combined motion, and your vote will be registered then. Right? That works? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. We've answered the question here. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, seven's, I'm not going to say anything about 7. You can do, combine that all you want.
Moving on to 7, business items. We recommend the authorization of scope of work with HopeWorks for trauma training for the faculty and staff. The training cost is $3,200 and is paid for by the Pottstown Area Health and Wellness Grant.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
I missed that.
Does anybody have any questions on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
Moving on to action item number 8 for education.
I'd like to make a motion, number 8, action items under education, 8.1 conference, 8.2 conference attendance, 8.3 conference attendance, 8.4 mentor teachers. You want to do 4?
No, stop it.
Hold 4?
Stop it.
Nope.
For the conferences? Conferences you want?
To 4.
To 4.
1 to 4 only.
Let's try this a different way.
No.
Before we move on, to which sections would you like to have separated out?
uh,
8.1 and 8.3. Do you have any others of the 14? Okay.
Different.
All right. So would you care to amend your motion? Let's just go ahead and do them individually. I think that's actually going to be faster than trying to combine them.
Okay, start again. Okay, action items for education, 8.1 conference attendance, Bureau of Special Education Annual Conference.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any questions or comments on 8.1?
Confused.
No questions? All right. All those in favor, you do
Aye.
have one? No. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection. That's 1. 13 more.
8.2 conference attendance, the Association of School Personnel Administrators Annual Conference. We ask the board to approve the conference as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any questions on 8.2? Hearing no questions on 8.2, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection. Moving on.
8.3 conference attendance, what mathematics is important. We asked that you approve the conference attendance as submitted.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any questions or comments on this particular one?
I'll be voting no, because I think it's unnecessary to send 3 staff to 1 seminar, 3 middle school math teachers. I would prefer to send 1, so I'll be voting no.
Very good. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. We have 2 noes. 2 noes. All those opposed say no. So, very good. So there's that. 8.4, mentor teachers. I think we'll stop.
Mentor teachers, we ask the board to approve the mentor teachers as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any questions or comments on 8.4, mentor teachers?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
No questions? Okay. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Very good. Okay, now the courses.
Any, you want to go course by course? Course by course.
Yeah, that's the only thing, so sorry.
No, no problem. That's okay. What we'd like to do is go course by course. We're going to start with 8.5, the proposal for mathematics for financial literacy. We ask the board to approve this course as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those figures, does anybody have any questions on 8.4? No. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
Moving on to 8.6, high school course proposal, Women in Literature. We ask the board to approve this course as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
We have
God
a motion.
bless you.
Motion and a second. Does anybody have any questions on this course? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. No. And me too. Good?
Okay, moving on to 8.7, high school course proposal, Animation. We're asking the board to approve this course as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for this new course. Are there any questions on this course? Nope. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
Okay, moving on to a high school course proposal, 8.8, Cybersecurity. We ask the board to approve this course as submitted.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any questions on this course? No. If not, so somebody did have a question.
All right, Tone.
Cybersecurity, right? That's ironic. I'm just, okay.
Where's
It is.
facilities is
Very good. All right, hearing no questions or objections, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say no. Quick question, just a polling question, of 9 through 14. Does anybody have questions on any of them, 9 through 14? French 1, journalism.
I'll make a motion to combine 8.9 to 8.13.
13, very good. We have a second on that motion. We have a motion and a second on 8.9 to 8.13. Are there any questions from anyone? Okay, if not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. So ordered without objection.
8.14, high school course proposal for French 1. We ask the board to approve this course as submitted.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns about adding French 1?
Yeah, excuse me. I have given this a lot of thought and spoken to several people about this particular course. And my first reaction is we have to vote either yes or no. And that, to me, is not where I'm at. Where I'm at is this is a course that my opinion is I like the core, I like the idea of 3 languages and all that. However, my vote would be not now, but soon. We've gone through an expensive labor negotiation. We have a lot of expenses that we're looking at. And my opinion is that at this particular point in time, we've survived for quite, and we've done well for a long time with 2 languages. The one piece of information that's come out is that the number of languages a high school offers is dependent upon the size of the high school and the size of the district.
No, that's not true.
Okay?
I'd be happy to show you the numbers, but that's not true.
Please, because that
actually
was
email.
one of the things that was mentioned in your earlier report.
No, it wasn't. I didn't say that. The language department had said that. But if you actually look at the numbers, that doesn't jive. Doesn't match.
For Montgomery County or?
For the 45 schools, it didn't match up. It varied.
Yeah, but you're looking at a skewed set of data. And I think what the language department was basing it on was information. I went to a school which was one of 2 high schools in my school district. The high school I went to is larger than the entirety of Pottsgrove School District. We had 5 languages. My wife, I have no idea how many languages New York City offered, but she took Norwegian. Now, my question is, how many schools do you think can offer a menu of languages large enough to include a language like Norwegian? My point is, your sample is skewed. There's a lot of small districts in Montgomery County.
I didn't do
Big district, well,
I just did from pretty much this side, the far side of Reading, all the way down to Philadelphia, to either side. So it did.
We can discuss that later. My point still remains, just looking at the data that I saw from Montgomery County, smaller play games, thank you. In Montgomery County, it looked like the districts that offer 2 languages are the smaller districts.
That's
Okay.
not true, but okay. All right. I'll
Correct, you can
Yes.
correct me
Yes.
because I don't have the data in front of me, and I'm just going on my recollection. It looked like we were more or less among the smaller districts, so I'm not sure we can afford it. And here are things we can't dispute. We live in a district which has a large, or has buildings that occasionally have problems. We have the middle school bridge, which was not anticipated. It's over $100,000. We have labs that need renovated. The labs in this building have only been slightly renovated since they were built. Okay? We go along and we find expenses, and right now, we got an email from Dr. Ziegler to wear clothes because it's cold. It could be cold in this building. Okay? I think Jeff, is there a heating problem or some heating renovations that are going on?
We're still working to rectify the issues of the heating plant that was put in place.
And my reason for saying, and not saying no, but saying let's wait.
But how long? There will always be bridges and roofs that need mending, or something needs to be updated. So do you continuously put it off?
I'm a little uncomfortable doing it now when we've had a union contract, and I think the union or the teachers deserved every dollar they got. You would agree with me. But let me explain it this way. When I stopped teaching full-time, I didn't go out and replace my 2002 Durango. And I didn't do that for a very simple reason. A 90-year-old slate roof on my house was nearing the end of its life. The chimney was cracked. I needed to do a lot of repairs. Let's get the repairs done. Not now, but soon. And that's where I think we need to come out on this issue. So I intend to vote no, not because I'm against a third language, not because I have something against French, but because I have something against what Dave could probably explain much better than I can, because he's a CPA. I'm just a guy who wants to who believes in a contingency, a large contingency. And you and I probably disagree over the size of the contingency we should have when we are facing unknown expenses. You know, Jeffrey's an excellent engineer. I'll tell you that. But he didn't recognize that there was going to be a $130,000 bridge repair. Nobody recognized it.
Right.
And that's a possibility that I would at least get this contract and this set of expenses done. So if you want to put time on it, How's a year?
Well, here'd be my question for you. So if the contract for the teachers is a certain percentage every year, it's already broken out over...
Your turn.
It's already broken out over 3 years, so every year there's going to be an increase, and then we'll go into another contract where there will probably be another increase for 3 years, give or take, and then they'll be followed by that. So there's always going to be increases no matter what.
I think that's not the argument. The argument is the degree of uncertainty. We now know what our expenses are going to be for the next 3 years.
And this is why the whole discussion was that we were going to wait for the budget numbers to come out so we could look at it as a picture and make a decision. This is voting on if we agree once the budget comes out and it fits in, there'll be a French class to offer. We're not saying we're approving French. Right now we're approving the French class based on whether or not we approve it for the budget.
You know, I'm an engineer, not an educator in some sense. And my engineer, not an educator, says this, that we walked into this year totally uncertain what happened. We could have had a strike. We could have had a more expensive contract. We could have had God knows what. Now that has been settled. We've got a series of expenses. We've got a middle school where an entrance is blocked. We got an email that said, be sure to dress warmly, this room might be cold. Didn't you get that email?
Yes, I think we also got it last year whenever the temperatures dropped down to single digits.
Yeah, okay. Do you think that's a good idea for kids to learn?
To dress warm?
Yeah.
I bet you there were probably kids in shorts today.
Chuck, may I
You're
ask you something?
probably right. But
Chuck, can
we're
I
not
ask
gonna
you
get
something?
We're not going to get far on arguing
No.
about the intelligence of kids dressing.
Let me propose something to you. So, let's say your children were accepted into a prestigious private school that was expensive, and you also had some repairs to do, whatever, needed a new car, a new house. Would you choose not to send your children to the private school because you have to do repairs, or are you going to find the money to make their life better? Because that's what we're doing here. We're finding the money to make sure that our students have a more well-rounded education. And we're
Where's
not
the money?
saying, well, you know what, we need a new bridge so you guys don't get your third language. You know, not too many years ago, we had 4 languages. 2 of them got dropped. We offered Mandarin, French, German, and Spanish. And they got dropped because of budget cuts.
True. That's not true, because I was here. That was because of low numbers. That
Well,
was
the
because of low
Mandarin was
numbers.
low numbers. The
The
French was
enrollment was
budget
low,
cuts.
wasn't budget.
The French was budget.
French was not. There was 10 students enrolled at the time.
When it was being taught by a Spanish teacher.
Doesn't matter. It wasn't because of budgetary, it was because of enrollment. I just want to make that very clear.
We offered 4, did we not?
We did.
Okay, we did. So if I was incorrect in why it was cut, I apologize. But we used to offer 4, we now offer 2. But it's not fair to the students for us to say, well, you know what, there's going to be some repairs to be made, so guess what, you lose. So that's just where I'm coming from.
Why are you saying students lose when we currently offer 2 languages? Has our ranking suffered because of the number of languages we offer?
How can you prove one way
How
or the
would
other?
we know? We wouldn't know. We've had a couple of students who were absolutely exemplary in world language, who had to actually go off campus. I don't know if it was junior and senior year, but I know at least senior year, because they were just amazing when it came to world language, and we didn't have enough to offer them. Now, that's just a few. But why shouldn't we have that third option? You know, for those kids who say, you know what, language is the way to go. World language is an amazing opportunity. If you can leave this high school knowing enough French, Spanish, German, whatever, or a little bit of all to get by, then that would be fantastic. I had clients come in the other day who were, the one did not speak any English, and she had an interpreter with her. And I'm trying to speak through the interpreter, and I'm thinking to myself, gosh darn it, I wish I knew Spanish. I wish I had had that opportunity in high school, and I did not. I couldn't even pick up a word or two.
I mean, I feel like you're pushing me in a direction I don't want to go, because I don't want to be perceived as being against languages. I started off by saying, not now, but soon. And you're missing the not now, but soon part. And given the fact that we've had a large number of expenses this year, what's the harm in delaying for 1 year? I mean, I understand your point. You're right. You know, the cleaning lady at our work, every now and then I use a few phrases in Spanish, and she lights up like a Christmas tree because, oh my God, somebody knows Spanish. All I know is, you know, Buenos Dias and Feliz Navidad and not much more. But I agree with you 100%. Your remarks about bilingualism, I'm on your side. I'm not against that. But what's the harm in asking to wait till we've had some of these current expenses settle out?
Well, we may have more expenses next year. We may have more expenses, no expenses next year that are unexpected. We don't know what next year's going to bring. We do know where we are right now. Actually, no, we don't know where we are right now because the budget is being prepared. So that's really the decision to add French, if you read this, is based on we're going to wait to see what budget is brought forth so we can look at the big picture and make an informed decision. Right now, all we're looking to do is to vote on on a contingent upon the French and the exploratory package being added to have the French class so that students that are starting to plan for next year know that it may or may not be an option.
Okay, hold on. Let me just try. I think that what I'm voting on when I look at this proposal, 814, is I'm voting for them to write that we're going to offer French 1 as a course for next year. That's all I'm voting on right now. I'm not voting to fund it. I'm not voting to hire a teacher. I'm not voting for exploratory language. I'm voting for them to write that we will offer French 1 in 2019-2020. Is that a correct reading of the motion?
That's how I read it.
Okay, can I ask another question directed to that? When did we decide on French? Because when you and I were first talking about this in the curriculum committee, we discussed Mandarin, we discussed a whole bunch of different languages. Latin. Was there a comparison between French and Latin? Because French and Latin, I was kind of stunned by your statistics. Latin, you know, the three most popular languages are Spanish, French, and German. The fourth stunned me, Latin. Now, has there been a comparison that French is preferred over Latin?
From where?
We're deciding if we commit this, we're going to introduce French.
We went through all this during curriculum committee many times, and you were there, I thought.
But I don't recall deciding that we had picked a language.
We picked a language during curriculum committee. Were you out possibly one of the times?
That could be.
Okay, because I say we went through ad nauseum a number of different ones, so sorry, Latin.
Well, what we can do,
Yeah, I know.
add something to the motion?
I had a question too.
All right. Well, we're
Oh, no, I just need an explanation. It's not about a bridge.
all right. We're gonna hold on. I think we've got the positions pretty clear on what they are. And go ahead and ask your question, please.
Thank you. Again, I'm not on the curriculum committee, but, and I appreciate all the hard work and effort you've done. But as this reads, adding French would require one new staff member at a cost of $95,463. In addition, the district currently employs a half a Spanish teacher and a half a German. And adding the exploratory program will require moving both of these teachers to full-times. And the additional cost would cost $144,589. As a result, in order to add French and exploratory program, the total cost in the district would be an implementation of almost $250,000.
Yes, that's right.
Right? 240, right? So if we go ahead and vote for this, I don't understand why we would vote for this and not have the money to back it up. Like, I'm just confused on if, we're saying, well, if the money comes in, I'm just a little confused.
No,
That's why I
it's
asked.
part of the budgeting process. Starting next month, stay tuned. You can all come to the Facilities Committee meeting, which we will turn over to a large part to discussing the budget and every item of every phase of the budget. And we will look at where we are. Right now, everybody on the administration is working very hard. They didn't, as soon as they got back from their Christmas break, they rolled right into budget setting, and we appreciate the work that they're doing. And we're going to start to see the fruits. Hold on. We're going to start to see the fruits of that starting in February. We are going to have a better idea of where we are in the budget process. He usually gives us, Mr. Nestor usually gives us right up front, this is where we think we are. We're starting here. Every discussion we have from here, we're going to start setting priorities and narrowing in on where we're going to be. But we will have, in about a couple of weeks, when we get to our next budget meeting, next Facilities Committee meeting, we will have an idea of where we are and what the money is going to be. The budget, everybody always says the board controls two things, right? We select the superintendent, we control the budget. That's it. That's all we do. And I take that part very seriously. We will decide what the priorities are of the district. Is the priority of the district to supply additional opportunities for students to learn? I mean, I'm all for the animation and those kinds of things. Those are great. Those are great opportunities for people that are in a conventional way. But I will tell you, nothing in the world is better for education than language and music. If you want to have the best, broad-minded, well-rounded students, what you're going to teach them is language, and you're going to teach them language early. We start music very early. We're talking about starting language earlier than we do now. And the cost of that right now is looking at $240,000. Maybe we have it, maybe we don't. Maybe all we can afford this year, or maybe all we decide we're going to afford is just the French 1 teacher. Maybe we decide we're not going to afford that at all, and maybe we're not going to hire an additional teacher this year when we get to the appropriate step of the discussion of the budget as it comes down. But this is giving us the opportunity. If we don't put it in the catalog, I don't know if there's any legal ramifications to that, but we're not going to find out how many students are interested because it won't be in the catalog. So this first step is to put it in the catalog. Then we're going to, as we move down the budgetary road, we'll decide whether or not we're going to do all or nothing of this year or next year.
One last point.
Please.
And hopefully it is the last one. But the $240,000 that Patty mentioned is for the first year cost. And I sent an email and you answered it. Depending on the response, there's another half, a French teacher doing a little math. That would be adding a half a French teacher, based on your numbers, would be adding another $47,000 or $287,000 a year to the school's budget. Now, I am totally in favor of the idea of students taking a language. The point that this makes to me is when the student makes the decision, how big is the menu? Do you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 27? I don't know. That's the only time, if you do a nodal analysis of a student's progress through school, that's the time the student has to make a choice. When he's presented with that menu, most of our students take one language. After they take that language, and I'm going to sound like a mathematician, but after they take that language, how many other languages there are doesn't make a bit of difference to their education. It makes a big difference when they hit 8th grade, 9th grade, and they have to make the choice, and then it makes a decision, and then you have a point. But our kids seem to be doing reasonably well with a current menu of 2 languages. And it's gone for quite a few years with 2 languages. Do we need 3 at this time? And that's where I've been conflicted, and you and I have spoken about me being conflicted. I don't feel comfortable coming out against, in a position where somebody's going to say he's against education.
Well, here's the deal. I can tell you right now, I can bet you $1,000 or $100,000, I am going to get a retirement this year of a teacher who earns more than $95,000. I choose to replace that teacher or not. Okay? So I have in my pocket $150,000 or whatever from the cost of that teacher. I choose, in the collective, we choose how we're going to spend that money. Do we choose to spend it on a new French teacher, or do we choose to spend it on replacing that teacher who just retired? That's going to happen. That's going to happen. We're describing our philosophy of education right now and what we value. I'm telling you, I put a very high value on language and music, in addition to all the STEM classes. So there's not too much that I don't value in terms of what we do here. So when I get an opportunity to offer another thing, you talked about Latin. That would be my choice, hands down. Why? Because who uses Latin? Everybody who studies Old English, or if you want to talk about medieval English or French or anything else, you're going to have some sort of Latin background. If you're going to go into medicine, you're going to study Latin. If you're going to go into law, you're going to study Latin. If you're going to go into business, there's lots of Latin in that. If you're going to go into pretty much anything, you're going to study Latin. But that wasn't the choice of the committee. The choice of the committee was French because at the end of the day, you have to make a nod to popular culture. And I am okay with French because why? It is still the language of diplomacy, one of the only languages that is authorized by NATO for discussion in NATO and the UN. So French is a fine choice. Not as good as Latin, but a fine choice. So I respect the work of the committee, and I want to go to the next step, which is to see, do we have students who are interested or not? If, it may prove your point. We only got 4 kids that signed up for it. We swung and we missed. We're not going to offer it next year.
If you want to read Old English, you need to read German. but that's off the side point. But anyway,
Okay.
If I can jump in, I want to say I appreciate the back and forth discussion because my intent was to vote no to French 1. But listening to something Jim first said and then what Bob said a couple times and Patty in her question, 2 reasons I was going to vote no and might still vote no later on at the budget time. One, our responsibility to represent, while we're providing the best education we can to the students, to represent the taxpayers. Second is I haven't seen to this point through any type of valid, what I would personally consider valid survey of interest. So I'm appreciative of how timing is working out, putting it in the course book, seeing, like you just said, seeing if there's interest, and then balancing that with what the ultimate budget is. So because of the feedback and what I've heard, I'm going to vote yes at this point, but not necessarily yes when it comes to budget.
Understood. Every vote is a separate vote. We're good?
I just had a quick question. What is the timing? We put it in the book. And then how long do the students have? I don't know what month it is that they come back and say, this is what I'd like to take for my next year. And what does that do to you, Mr. Nestor, as far as you have just a few weeks to prepare the budget? Are we going to get the demand, if you will, in time for you to say, I know you're going to be working on it as if it's in play, and the timing is close because I know you also have to hire teachers. Isn't it the spring that you start to put that out? So we're right up against that.
Right now, I'm incorporating French and the exploratory program in the budget. I'll be able to tell you how much it's going to cost, and we can easily take it out if we choose to do so. But I'm incorporating it as we go. So we can we can react as quickly as we need to.
My final question, if you're putting it in the budget, you're already feeling like it's going to go through? No?
You've got to
Because
plan
for
for it.
me,
You gotta plan for it.
for me, to be honest with you, until I see the need, till I see the interest, I kind of did my feelers around, and I did not see any interest at all. And I'm really, I wish I would have been at the curriculum meetings more to be more involved, but until I can be proved that we have the numbers and you can justify $250,000, I'm really hesitant. And that's, I'll end it right there.
I did want to make a comment and all, and I didn't want to intrude into Dr. Nippert's and such like that. First, I want to say thank you to all the world language teachers, the administration, the curriculum committee, the board members. Possibly bringing back a third language has been pretty much almost a 4-year process. It's not something that the administration took, oh, we're going to add this language and let's just go ahead and do it like we do with all our other languages. This actually has gone through the curriculum committee when I was the director, and that was 2 years. And Ashley, when she was the director now, or the chair now, we've gone through this on so many occasions, sent out so many different surveys to see about making sure it is something that the board would want us to go through. So I have to say thank you to all of those who have done everything they can to see if it's something we're going to want to do. To answer your question in regards to about the different things, the only thing I want you to look at when you're going to vote eventually, right, is the items you're speaking of are capital products. They are not the budgetary money. So the money from this is going to be budgetary. It's going to be curriculum. It's going to be personnel. It's going to be different things. Money for a bridge, money for the fields, money for putting up dugouts, money for putting up whatever we're putting up, the bridge most likely. That all comes from a capital. So it has nothing to do with the two. So we have money for capital, we have money for budgetary. So they're two separate things, just so you, because the capital will always, as Jim said, will always come up. And such like that, this is going to be something that's going to be whether or not we're going to offer it. When you're looking at other subjects, like you said, we have 2, we're fine. If I'm not mistaken, we have between 8 and 11 AP classes. We just approved another one, AP class. We're fine. Why do we approve another one? We have introduction to computer science, yet we approved cybersecurity. We're fine. Why do we approve another? The reason why we always keep looking at the different classes and different products available is to make sure we're giving our students the most efficient, excellent education we can possibly offer the students. French 1. I can tell you right now, I know everybody here was just talking about whether or not it's going to be something that, oh, we're going to have the demand for it immediately. The reason why French left was twofold. One, because obviously it was run incorrectly, in my opinion. I wasn't on the board at the time when they voted it off. I know members on the board that were say it was probably their biggest mistake they ever made was voting against it and not trying to find an individual to run the program and build it. If and when French 1 gets voted on, you're going to have to build the program. It is not going to be something, oh, boom, 50 kids are going to just sign up for it, that they weren't going to sign up for Spanish. It's going to be something that's going to be built. It's just like the exploratory program when you said about, what, they're going to pick a language. Well, the exploratory program in the future, when we're looking at that, that's the program that's going to help the students to actually decide which of the languages they're going to go to. Again, and as Bob said, and we've said multiple times, this is just to put it on the books. So we're just doing that. But I know everybody's thinking the same thing. They're all thinking, well, if I vote it now, that means it's voted for, right? We already said we're going to put it in at the budget and such like that. So, yes, the concept, if you tell Mr. Nestor, we're voting for this, the thought is we're going to probably want to approve it in the future as long as we can afford it. We've always said and as long as I've been on this board, it's been, can we be a district of choice? How do we become a district of choice? How do we get those individuals that want to move to our area, want to go to our school district? We want to bring people from other areas to our area, right? How can we do that? How can we compete? Well, to be a competitive school and be a school district of choice, you have to have those offerings to your students. You have to have the third language. It'd be great if we had 4 and 5. I agree with you on the size, but 3 is pretty much a basic. You have to have 3. If you looked at all the stats, we've been through all these stats. We've done them all, right? The amount of schools that have less than 3 languages are like 2 out of the entire area. We're like one of the few that doesn't have 3. It's just something that the administration and so many people have put such hard work into, and something that is going to be so beneficial to our students. Is why I think the curriculum committee has spent so much time on this particular program and hopefully has the board's support in offering it at the end of this year.
Now, you all may have noticed that we had this conversation go on. This is just an action item to vote on whether or not to put something in the catalog, and the discussion has gone on for some time. When I was perfectly aware that I had 7 to 8 votes already. The reason that we do this is so that people get to voice their opinions in full, in toto. And most of the discussion has gone on in the committee for curriculum. And this was really the first time we've talked in any detail about the option and where we're going. That's important to me that we talk about it. And because, as you heard, we had 1 vote, sorry, not in your direction, my direction, changed, but the idea is that we're all talking. We all represent different groups and people with different opinions, and that's why we talk, and that's why we've continued to go on. At this time, we are going to be talking about this again in a number of different forums, probably. And of course, everybody is invited to the Operations Facilities Committee to hear about the budget as it goes on. And I think Mr. Nestor would be happy to talk to people about where we are, and maybe we could have some handouts ready for folks on that we could email ahead of time to them to look at, and then they can decide if they want to come or not. Yeah. So we want people to be a part of this and not feel excluded, but to be included and get to participate as much as they wish. But at this time, I think I'm going to call the question, and I'm going to ask for a vote. Oh, right. I'm sorry. Yes, I got you.
I did want to mention something in answer to Patty. You'd said about interest in the district. The school district did a survey 2 years ago?
2017.
Okay. Asking about foreign language. And what was the percentage that was interested in French? 80?
Was it for foreign language or was it for French?
It was for French. It was for foreign. No, sorry, it was for foreign language, but chose 80% brought back that they were interested in French.
I'd have to.
It's semantics. It's, you know, at the end of the day.
You could get it.
No, that's okay.
Okay. 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago, we had the opportunity to participate. We were invited to participate to our student board representatives, held a conference with several of our neighboring districts, and I was honored to be invited and pleased to attend. Thank you very much for that, and I thought it was very well run, and everybody was very respectful, and it was a lot of good interaction that went on. And one of the things that was discussed was that one of the other districts does include, and they take time to ask their board representatives specific questions. So I'm going to join that district at this time and ask you specifically, each of you, if you would do, your thoughts on this particular discussion of adding a foreign language in general or French in particular to the district curriculum offerings.
I can't speak for all the budget stuff because I don't really understand much of it, but from like the student perspective, I think that a third language is extremely important, and I took French in 7th grade, and it's a beautiful language. It's so fun to hear, and that's not what it's about, but learning it, I've learned so much more. Like, I can like hear things on TV or like see things on social media and I understand what it says. And I got to travel to Quebec, which was just a really cool opportunity as well. And for someone who wants to travel, I think it's important that we have a basic understanding of the main languages that are spoken, that being Spanish, German, French, Latin even, Italian even. So I just think it is extremely important to have a third language. And you mentioned the interest of the students. And I know we had the surveys and stuff go out to the district, but I think if you make the students aware that if it is potentially put into the course book, there should be an announcement that it's put into the course book, because not all students are aware that new courses are being added like all the time. Like they're just thinking like, oh, I'm supposed to take American history in 11th grade. I'm supposed to take this science in 11th grade, that type of thing. And they're not really paying attention to the new things that are added or anything like that. So I think you would get kids interested in French. But I just think they need to know about it for it to happen.
I believe that, as always, it's important to give students as many opportunities as possible for them to succeed. And for the students who don't necessarily want to take Spanish or don't want to take German, they're kind of stuck. You know, right now you have two options. You do this or you do this. If you don't like either, take 1 year and don't take it again. But then the student is missing out on the opportunity to develop knowledge in a language that will help them communicate with so many other people around the world, you know? So I do think that it's really important to just have more options, even if it isn't French, although I think it is a very good choice. I know when I was in middle school, I really wanted to take French, and then when I found out that they didn't offer it anymore, I was upset. I was sad. But I know middle schoolers, my sister's in middle school, I know tons of students who would be very interested in having that, and I think that it's important that we give them more options.
All right. Well, I thank everybody for participating. Yes. You have your microphone on. Did you want to say something?
You've got two good salesmen. I
Yes.
withdraw my objections.
Well, thank you. All right. Let's see if I've done it. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. 8-1. 8-1. And that's where we'll have to leave it for tonight. So we want to go on to the next one.
Moving on to 8:15, overnight trip approval for indoor color guard. We asked the board to approve this trip as submitted.
Second. We have a motion and a second on 8:15, the overnight trip approval for the indoor color guard. Does anybody have any questions, comments, worries, or concerns? If not, all those in favor.
Well, just a quick
We have
question,
one?
just a quick question,
Okay.
right? We're paying for 2 chaperones, but it says number of chaperones is 5. Are the other 3 parents?
Yes.
Okay.
Look at that.
They're going to have all their clearances and such like that?
Yes.
Yeah, they have to. Good to go. Okay, look at that. Deep analysis and critical thinking on display. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. All right, so ordered without objection. Report of the committee. Okay. All right. Some of you were able to be at the meeting at West 2 weeks ago as the Facilities Committee meeting came to an end, and we were looking at the list of capital projects at that time, and we had a rather robust list. I don't have it with me right now, and you had the great chart, and you had all the displays and everything. We're not going to go over it, but for each and every project, we had a description of what it was and why it was a priority and why it was necessary, why we felt it was necessary. And at the end of the day, because you had prioritized them already, it's not the entire list of all the capital projects, it was just the ones that you had prioritized into the 2019-2020 year, right? So the committee looked at that list and looked at the prioritization of the list as it was, and by the time we got to the end, what we had were, let's say, 8 projects that were left over that we couldn't justify as an immediate need, like the lighting, like updating some of the communications and some of the other issues that we have that were more expensive and higher on the list. We had things like dugouts on the athletic fields. And we had a few other items similar to that, fixing the fields, leveling the field, the playing fields off, which I think is kind of important. Several of them were what I would call forward-facing. In other words, when people come to our school, you know, what are their impressions? What do they see? When, you know, somebody comes and the varsity baseball team doesn't have a dugout and, you know, not really bleachers, what does that say, right? Is that what we want to say? And those particular things were, in my mind, less expensive. I think it was $12,000 for the dugouts. And how many years has that been on your list of things to do? And how long? It was on for several years before that. I would argue it's been on the list since I went here. So that being said, and looking at the size of our capital reserve, I think that the recommendation was that we wanted to do all of those things. The only thing I wasn't sure on was the fence along School Lane, the one along the back.
So, from the study that was done, there's a fence along School Lane and then go down along the woods.
Like on Brookside there. Then we had spoke about with the new possible trail that's coming in, the fence that will be, I guess, more towards Kime Street would be a part of the trail that's possibly going in, as well as there is a possibility for alternative or additional trail to go along School Lane that could possibly put a fence on the School Lane side. So I still put that proposal in there. It was something that was done from a study for the athletic department. Leaving that up to a decision of the board. Is that something we look at when we get to the trail piece to say, well, fence is going in, so we don't need to fund it, or do we just go ahead and fund it and then have the trail group just put their trail incorporated into the fencing that we would install?
Do you have the numbers?
I kind of knew you were going to ask me, so
Now, the item in front of us is just the report of the committee. It is the report out from the committee. It is not an action item to vote on this funding tonight. I just wanted to kind of give you the direction of the recommendation. That's the total. That's the total. Okay. What was the total for everything? Yeah. For all of the projects that they wanted to do, including the auditorium lighting, which is almost $500,000 by itself, 3 roof condensers and coils, and you know how I am about HVAC units. That's almost $400,000. Lighting controls, HVAC automation controls, that talks about getting the rooms to the right temperature. That's in there, $225,000, and so on and so forth on down. We talked about 3 vehicles for the maintenance group, and safety and security projects, camera system, and some security lighting and things for the parking lot here. Altogether, it comes out to $2.1 million. It's a lot of money, and it includes, like I said, some of those smaller projects, $12,000 for some bleachers, $14,000 for dugouts, and some other things like that. We, as the Operations and Facilities Committee, are recommending that basically we buy this entire list that the administration has put forward for us for the 1920 year. And we don't have to buy the fence right away. We can look into that some more. But what I would like to do is just kind of say that this list is here, and I would like everybody to have a chance to look at it, because right now, as far as I know, just the committee has seen it, and the matrix and all that stuff, and there's a lot of nice work that's gone on, and I'd like you to have the opportunity to see this, and yeah. And so if we could get this emailed out to the members of the board, and I think we'd like to add this for an action item for the next board meeting.
Got it.
If you would do.
Yep.
Okay. So the entire, I think we got an update on the bridge, did we?
Yes. Actually, today, I met with our engineer. The bridge has met all the standards, structurally sound. with all the rebar, steel decking, grading, new drains. What we're waiting for now is 40-degree weather with no rain, so we can pour the concrete and put warming blankets on it and have the bridge fully completed. So we're hoping tomorrow or what's that, Thursday, but it's going to rain on both days, so that's putting us off until we can get warm temperatures again.
Very good. Thank you. That's good news. I appreciate that. So I think those were the two main items that we had for the Operations and Facilities Committee. We'll get that list out for everybody to take a look at. And I do encourage anybody who has questions on that list or concerns about specific items to let me or any of the other members of the Facilities Committee know, or obviously anybody in the administration, so we can talk it over and be ready to move on that at the next board meeting.
I just have one quick question.
Sure.
Quick question was, obviously, well, Part A, Part B. How much do we have in capital? Find the data there. And how does this set up for our long-range plan, as in getting all these little items versus what we have coming up in the next 3, 4, and 5 years when we have the long plan?
Well, the little items were a part of the long-range plan. Some of them were deferred from 4 years ago. So the original capital programs plan that was put together was really based off of a study that was done previously, and as well as life expectancy of equipment, structure, and so forth. And then those items were taken and then prioritized for the fiscal year. So doing the little things would actually put us on track of where we started out. We will be caught up in a sense from some of those little things were put on the plan back in 2015 when I got here. So we'll be playing catch up at that point.
I have a question for Market Street. Is it worth approaching them to see if they have any advertisers that would sponsor some of these smaller projects over time, like the dugouts, that help, established by such and such company? I mean, we have on the tennis courts and throughout different places. I mean, even if it's just a small amount to offset it, they're paying a couple $1,000s every year for the next 5 years. Might take care of some of the small items, or at least, like I said, offset them. Yes, I'm not even playing.
Please.
With regards to Market Street, if we could get a rendering of dugouts being planned, they could then go out and market that to additional sponsors, et cetera, because that's really what when we started this concept, it was to make sure there was only one sponsor per right.
Yes.
So, and they couldn't be competitive. There couldn't be two plumbers or. So if we got a rendering that showed the dugout, I think we could go out and help market that way.
Well, the dugout was just the one, because it was like 14,000, but I don't know if there's any other items as well on that list that, I mean, some things obviously don't really work well for but there might be.
They would probably be the biggest and easiest to sell because of the visibility.
Okay.
Well, then we have the bleachers that are going to go in the behind the end zone. I think the portable bleachers.
Correct.
So that would be another obviously but there are opportunities to do that. What I'd like to do is we generally move forward and say we're going to get this done one way or the other this year. Okay. So we'll do that. All right. So that's everything for that. So I need a report from the Athletics, Co-Curricular, and Community Relations Committee.
Yes, and I am ready. We had an excellent meeting, and before I even begin, I cannot express the team we have and how everybody works together. They come up with ideas. They bounce ideas off one another. There is such a rhythm with our committee. So I'm just so impressed. But anyway, the Athletics and Co-Curricular and Community Relations Committee, we met on Tuesday, January 15th. We discussed the capital projects, and Mr. Leach will review the facilities meeting notes and follow up, which we're working on. Mr. Ansbach highlighted the 2018 Fall Athletic All-Conference winners. A total of 27 student athletes were commended for their athletic performance, along with an additional 11 more athletes recognized for their academic achievement and service to the high school. We were given a sample of congratulations to get mailed out to the parents, which is signed by Dr. Ziegler and Mr. Ansbach, I'm going to get that right yet, to all the recipients acknowledging their accomplishments. The committee suggested that we acknowledge these students at a board meeting at the conclusion of each season, because we kind of realized we were getting the spring, because by the time spring's done, it's graduation, and the kids have already checked out. So we're making a mental note of that. Mr. Dorenzo presented the committee with the updated logo that was modified from the November 27th committee meeting. A number of changes were made. In conclusions, the committee recommended the logo. And I'll tell you again, just the collaboration of everybody coming together, and some coming into the meeting was just, again, we're all working together, and we got to share the beauty of it tonight. Mr. Ansbach and Mr. Dorenzo presented finalized guidelines and the programs, what will be included in the new co-curricular eligibility standards for 2019-20 school year. The plan is to pilot this program beginning in February to begin the transitioning to including standards beginning next fall. Mr. Ensbach and Mr. Dorenzo will begin to schedule meetings with all the advisors of these programs, that they will be effective through the remainder of the month in January, and that's including the band, the chorus, all the extra clubs. The only one that was in question with eligibility was if we have a play, would be what, from Friday when the eligibility list comes in, and if there was a play, we could not hold back the kids that were performing, because a lot of times they don't have backups. So we didn't want to penalize them for that. But the goal is with all of these clubs, they know Friday, work hard to get it done by Monday. That's like the goal. And for them to go out and as advisors and speak to the clubs, because this is something brand new, and I'm sure there's going to be some rough ones, but they're working really hard with that. Dr. Ziegler and Mr. Daney presented a community service program that they would like to implement, called the Give Back programs. There's so much involved in this, and it was something that left me so inspired when I left, how I wanted to get the children and students involved in the community and earn points for them to get the presidential awards. And then eventually, if they work hard, they can be awarded a community road at graduation. So if this all goes well, it's approved, I'd really like to see them come and do a presentation on that, because it was an excellent, excellent idea. And it's called the Give Back program. So then Mr. Ensbach and Mr. Lorenzo talked about the Athletic Hall of Fame, and they proposed some guidelines for the implementation of the Pottsgrove Athletic Hall of Fame. So we had a great meeting, and I would like to see if we get a little bit more feedback down the road of the Give Back program. Any discussions?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to highlight about the Give Back program. I'm going to ask Dr. Shark in a second, because the question was going to go to him, but I wanted everybody else to think about this particular program. As you all know, one of the highlights, I'll have to say, of me being on the school board is the day we voted for the ribbons that the ropes that the kids actually wear. That was probably one of the things I actually liked most, was that, and the suggestion that Bill brought up about the kids walking through all the schools. Those are my two highlights of being here the 4 years. This particular program is similar to that. In essence, the kids, if they volunteered approximately 100 hours, would be given a ribbon to wear at graduation. Now, this could be given yearly, so in essence, they could have 4 ribbons to wear if they actually received 100 hours per year. It's a per year thing. It's something that they're going to bring to the school board relatively soon. There was a thought, and this is where I'm going to ask Dr. Shirk, because I know this came back to you, as into could we do something with me? I always want to do it now. I'm always, let's get it done. If we can get it in for this school year, I do not see why. We have graduating seniors that have already been going through the Give Back program. If I can offer them a way that they can show off and wear that green ribbon, I want them wearing the green ribbon this graduation. But it has to go through board approval and such like that. And obviously, I'm going to ask you, is it something feasible that we can even do? We thought about possibly scaling back the numbers, because we didn't tell the kids fast enough and such like that. So I am going to ask Dr. Shirk, as into, has the vetted process been done in any way to see if it could possibly be thought about to bring to the school board for approval for this year?
We're still in the process. I mean, obviously, I had an opportunity just to briefly, meet with Dr. Harney, and I know we haven't had a chance to get together with Mr. Dorenzo or Dr. Ziegler or Mr. Ansbach. So we can take, I mean, it's on our things to do, and we can look at it in the not too distant future to see if it's something we want to try to get off the ground this year. I'm sort of like you're mentioning, like prorating the hours based on the last 90 days of school. Okay. All right. Sure. We should be able to follow up with something for next meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just one last thing adding to that I forgot about is we already know our seniors are really going to be close to senioritis soon. So we do, which I hope we implement this program, we're going to go down to the 8th graders who will then will get all the information so they can be a part of it when they come up here.
All right, we had our meeting last Tuesday. We discussed all the new proposed classes, which I'm not going to go over one by one because we all have the information. They were all well thought out, well planned classes that we all felt would be very beneficial to our high school students. Quite a bit of our conversation revolved around these new dual enrollment programs being proposed. The first one is a program from Pitt, University of Pittsburgh, called CHS, College and High School. It's basically a class taught in the high school. Obviously, the kids don't have to go to Pitt. That would be a long commute. The credits are, the classes are about $245 per class, and the students would graduate with basically 3 college credits. If they choose to go to Pitt, those credits would transfer with them as that class, along with the grade. So if they get a C in the class, then they're starting out with a C already on their transcript at Pitt. If they get an A, yay. We had quite a few questions around it, making sure that it wasn't going to eliminate the dual enrollment program that we have with Montco. And we were assured that it would not. And we also then spoke about Penn State. Berks also offers a dual enrollment. It's quite a bit more expensive, but it actually takes care of some of the classes that if students know that they are going to Penn State, they can take these classes, and it's classes that are required by all that attend Penn State. So then it gets that off their plate. They would have to attend the class at Penn State Berks, which is in Reading. So that's a bit of a drawback, but it does get it off their plate, and then they don't have to worry about it when they enter Penn State as a freshman. Let's see, what else? We talked about the job shadowing program, which is basically a day where the students can, if approved, go and spend a day with someone, almost like take your child to work day type of thing, except they can go anywhere where it's approved. So if they want to go find out what an electrician does all day, they can go, if we can, they or we can find someone for them to shadow, or a lawyer, they can go sit in Mark's office all day.
They do the work?
Sure. Do you want them to do the work? We just thought that's also another nice addition. And then career pathways were spoken about, and that's just, it's classes that are suggested for students that are planning a certain career path, and they should take these classes or those classes or these classes. And then we did not make it to the SPP because we ran out of time, but we will talk about it at the next meeting. So, anybody have anything to add?
All right, now we're winding down. Item 10.1 is new business. Would anybody like to take the floor with new business? You, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Lindgren. I just wanted to go back and revisit a question I think, Mr. Leach, might have been you about, you asked the student board reps what your, well, Bob did, what your challenges were sitting in these seats. So now you've had a chance. Was that you, Mr. Leach? Okay, thank you. Okay. All right. Challenges that student board reps have sitting in your seats. I know you had a chance, obviously, to collaborate with other fellow student board reps a couple weeks ago. So just wanted to get your thoughts on some of the challenges you see sitting in your seats.
Yeah, that meeting that we had with all of them, it gave us a chance to learn their challenges and also for us to reflect on things that we haven't necessarily thought about until we were asked to think about them. And for us personally, it's one of the big challenges for us is implementing the ideas that we have and that we get from the students into the school, whether it's us communicating it correctly with you guys or with Dr. Ziegler, or it's just us not necessarily understanding what the students are saying. So really the big thing is just communication. We need to find a better way to communicate to you, to communicate to the students, for us to communicate with each other. So, and that's what we also learned from the other student board reps as well. Like they have that same issue sitting here and then having to get out the information that they learn here to the students. Like it's a challenge so everyone knows what's going on and everyone understands what's going on. And then it's also difficult to answer their questions as well because we might not explain it as well as it's presented. But so that's really the big challenge.
Yeah, something we discussed was getting information that we discuss here at these meetings back to the students. Not just the way, not just how we get it to them, whether it's through social media or through, word of mouth, but also trying to stress why this is so important. The things that we talk about here are going to affect the students and their lives at the school. All these new classes. How do we get that information back to the students? How do we tell them, hey, we have 6 new classes that we're offering you. Pay attention. Look at them. Care about them. And that was something that they could all relate to as well. Trying to stress the importance of what goes on here and why it matters to them.
Thank you.
So what is the best way to communicate that? Because I think if I remember, just from Mason's time, there was small group meetings. So you had a handful or however many students to sit down with you. So when you have a meeting here, and then you want to convey what happened to the students, what would be the easiest? I mean, I'm going to say Facebook. I'm going to date myself there because I'm, middle-aged woman, so I'm on Facebook. So I'm not ashamed. But is it a group that you could create? Is it some sort of social media that's more relevant to your age group and be able to say, here are some pertinent things, like you said, the new classes. Drum it up, let them know, this is coming, that's coming. Take a look at these programs, get involved in it. What is the way to do that?
What we do now typically is we'll go out and tell everyone we know. We'll be like, this is what we talked about. Listen, this is what went on. But something we talked about starting is having a segment, the two of us, on the morning announcements and telling this, because most students watch that every morning. So if we're able to go on the announcements and say, hey, everyone, this is what's going on, I think that's going to be a really good way to get information to them because they have to watch it. They have to pay attention. So.
Yeah, and one of the other schools, I think it was Springford, they have meetings with a couple kids from different clubs or different sports and all that type of stuff. So I think that would also be because that gets the information out to all of the different groups of people at our school, and then that would bring new ideas from all of the different kids at our school. Because like the Falcon feedbacks that we do with Dr. Ziegler, there's just like 4 random kids from each grade. So it could all be sports kids, or it could all be music kids in like one session. So it could be biased opinions that are being shared.
And then is there a way, how do the students get their questions to you?
We usually just use our emails, since we can, with our Pottsgrove emails.
Yeah, we get a lot of good ideas from our Falcon feedback sessions, but I also have people just like texting me, oh, hey, you're the student board rep, I have this idea. So it's a lot of that too. It's a lot of people just being like, I have something to tell you. So.
One of the things I'd say is if you guys start doing in the morning announcements, it will also draw attention to that you are the student board rep, so you'll probably end up getting more, more interest from students coming to you and saying, hey, what can you do about? Yeah.
So, because we talked about the challenges, what is the best part of the job?
I have learned so much from this. Like, as boring as some of it can be, like between the money stuff that I don't understand, I'm just sitting here twirling my thumbs, like I don't know. But some of the other things that I have learned, and getting the chance to be more involved in school, it's as some kids might not think it's that important, but it is like the most important thing. And with applying to colleges lately, and like all of the essays that I've had to write and all that type of stuff, it has given me something to write about. And like, because I've just been able to write about my opportunity here, my position here. So I've written like 5 essays on this, so it's another perk to it too.
Even more to write about.
I would say it's definitely an honor to be the voice of the students. People come to me when they have issues, when they have questions, and I get to, represent them and bring their ideas to the table. And I like that a lot, that people trust me with that responsibility.
I have to say, I was much more impressed with your responses than Mr. Lappick, who said, Nutter Brothers. Come on.
It's a 2. One of the interesting things when we went to, and we heard what the other districts did, was one of them made it a course requirement that every student had to attend a school board meeting during the course of the year. I don't know that I'd inflict that on any of our students, but that's up to the teachers. But another thing, I spoke with the ladies after the meeting, and that was that they were saying they wanted to contribute. They wanted to be a part of change. It was a gratifying feeling to be able to have an effective change. And I said, well, the closest place where the rubber meets the road is actually, I think, in the committee meetings. Sadly, not my meeting. But I think the curriculum meeting would be one committee that you might be interested in attending, because they do have very, very interesting discussions, and you can go into minutiae of the different languages and how many people speak them and how many people want them to your heart's content, and actually affect some of the things that are coming out, because we do generally accept the recommendations of the committees as they are presented to us. So that would be something. I'm not going to make it a requirement. I'm not going to put you on the committee list, but I'm just telling you, if you want to, that's an opportunity for you. So thank you once again, ladies. Do appreciate it. That was the first item of new business. What else we got?
That's it from me.
Hooray. Somebody? Second?
I was just going to bring up a thought. We were talking all the ropes. I would like to find the process so the Western Center kids have a blue rope. They represent us, the seniors at graduation.
I just want to look. I think they do. Don't they bring stuff over from? I'll look into it.
I mean, it can be that easy.
All right. Any other new business from anybody? Okay, that takes us to the end of 10. We're now back to public comment. We started, and now we come back to public comment. I have no new papers, but are there anybody who's stuck around this long who would like to say anything Criticisms are welcome, praise is welcome, a good joke is welcome. Hearing nothing, then we're ready to 12. Motion to adjourn, I have one. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Okay.
Aye.
So moved. What's that?
Good.